Alright, this is going to be the review sheet number 6. Quick video just to help you out. For this box here, okay, again, we've been doing these last couple weeks, and I think you guys are getting better at them, but I'm going to go ahead and just make one up and show you one that is very similar to the first one. I want to make sure everybody's showing all the proper work. So I'm just going to make this up. I'm not going to give you the answer to the other one, but you know, this one is very similar, as you'll see. With a whole lot of steps going on. The first thing, alright, so there's the problem. I've just made this up. Hopefully after I go through this one, it's going to give you a good idea of what the other one is, because as you can see, it's very similar with parentheses. It's got an exponent and subtraction in the problem there. So it's very similar to that, so I'm going to bring back this. Okay, so the first thing obviously we're always going to do is write PEMDAS, and we're going to follow this little device here that you guys have learned over the years. Okay, now we're at the parentheses step. Now remember, every time we do a new line, we should only be doing one step at a time and rewriting everything. This is one you guys, a lot of you are going to do more than one step, and those of you that are getting checked, you're seeing that I'm correcting that. Otherwise, it's going to be wrong. I want one step, and then I want the whole thing rewritten. So, you know, pretty much everything we do with these types of questions, we are doing it left or right. So we're going to do, since there are two sets of parentheses, we're going to do this one first, and that's going to give us 1. Now, I did one thing, one problem. I'm now going to rewrite everything. So 1 plus 5 times 2 to the third minus, and I'm going to bring down just here. Now, we are done with these parentheses, but again, we're still on the parentheses step, so, you know, we've still got some work to do here. So this is where, on this one, a lot of you, this is wrong, so if you're writing this, don't write this. Okay, a lot of you are doing, okay, 3 squared is 9, 9 minus 4 is 5. But listen to how many things I just did there. I did 3 squared, that's one problem, and then I did minus 4. I just did 2 things at once. We do not do 2 things at once. We always do things one at a time. So I like to call these, whenever you have something happening in parentheses, other than just subtraction, multiplication, addition, or division, okay, I call these I have like these parentheses when they have 2 steps or 2 or more things going on in them. I say you have to follow a little mini PEMDAS, Okay, and what that means is you go inside parentheses, the first thing you look for are more parentheses. No? And then that would tell you you have to do exponents before you can do 3 minus 4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do that exponent there. We're going to make that 9. Now I'm going to bring down everything I haven't used. 1 plus 5 times 2 to the third minus 9 minus 4. Now this is very, very, very important. These parentheses must stay on here. Okay, the only way you can actually get rid of parentheses when you're doing these types of problems is when you have taken whatever's happening inside the parentheses and you've got it down to one single number. Okay, so like on this next step, I'm going to now do 9 minus 4 and I'm going to make that 5. Now I can get rid of those parentheses because I have them down to one number. So now I'm going to rewrite. Now look at that. We've actually done 1, 2, 3, or actually just 2 steps, 3 steps actually if you count this line. We've done 3 lines here, and we are just now done with the parentheses step up there. Now we go to exponents. 2 to the third, a lot of people think that's 6. 2 times 3, it's not 2 times 3, it's 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 would be 8. So now we're going to do that. Then I'm going to bring down everything. 1 plus 5 times 8 minus 5. Now I'm done with exponents. Now I'm going to go to multiply or divide. There's only one multiplication. That's going to be 40. I bring down everything. 1 plus 40 minus 5. Okay, now I'm finally done with that. I'm on to addition or subtraction. Whatever you see first on the left, I see addition. That'd be 41, and then 41 minus 5. I don't have any room left, but below that would then be 36. And imagine it was down there. You can see I got my tornado going that we talk about. Okay, but right here's the big thing. A lot of you are going to go from that down to one number. You can only do one step at a time. Okay? All right. Okay, this next one here. These are algebraic expressions. They're algebraic because they have variables. Okay, so over here, the ones we just did, we just say that that's simplifying Okay, that's just when you are getting all the numbers and operations and you're getting them down to one number, what it equals as one number. Okay, you're simplifying it. Over here, you evaluate algebraic expressions, which means you're going to be given variables and what those variables equal, and you're going to have to then simplify it. Okay, so first thing you guys got to understand right here is when you see anytime a number is touching a variable, that means for times k. Okay, so remember the first step here, of course, after you've written PEMDAS, because we always do that, after you've written PEMDAS, we are going to turn that algebraic expression, and it's algebraic because it has numbers, variables, and then operations. Okay, it has those three things. If it has those three things, we know it has to be that. We're going to turn that into being all numbers and operations, so to be a numeric expression. So we know that t equals 6, so we got 4 plus 6 divided by r, which is 2, times 4 times 4. Okay, and then from there, obviously you'd follow PEMDAS, and then you'd have your tornado there. Okay, now one thing that a lot of people are doing is they are taking 4k, and in their head, they are basically making it 16 because they're going, well, I know 4 times 4 is 16. You just broke PEMDAS. You cannot do, I took off a lot of stuff, sorry. That's all supposed to be multiplication. You cannot do this multiplication before you've done this division. Okay, that's why we have this order of operations. Okay, so that's why we can't just do 4 times 4. So remember, the first step to evaluating an algebraic expression is to turn it into a numeric expression. You should be doing no mathematics at all. You should not be adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, or doing an exponent until you've converted it to a numeric expression. Okay, obviously this one over here is going to be the same way. Okay, all right, let's go on here. Okay, I'll make one up here for this too. Mean, median, mode, and range. I'll just make a problem up that's very similar. Okay, so let's say that I scored 10 points, 12 points, 15 points, 3 points, and hang on, I want to pick a good number here. Hang on, sorry. And I scored 5 points. Okay, so I want to change that, sorry. Well, actually, I'll just leave it. Okay, so first of all, mean. Okay, now mean is the average. Okay, something that we're going to have on review sheets for the rest of the year, but we actually don't learn mean. You've already learned it, but we don't do it in class until May. So we're really front-loading this. We're really teaching you something. We're doing these. This is one of these situations where we call it a review sheet, but it's more of a, it's a learning tool. It's not just reviewing. Okay, so this is front-loading. Okay, so what you do when you find the mean is you are going to add up all of your numbers. So I'm going to add up all those points that I scored in 5 different basketball games. That's how many points I scored, and that's going to give me 45 points, I think. Yep, that's 45 points. Now we're going to take that 45 points, and then we're going to divide it by the number of numbers you see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to divide it. That would tell me that I must have scored 9 points per game. That's what the average is. That's what it means. So we do the sum divided by the amount of numbers there are. If there were 6 games I scored in, then I would do 45 divided by 6. If there were 7 games that added to 45 points, I would do divided by 7. Let's talk about median now. Okay, median is your middle number. Okay, there is a little bit of work involved when you're doing median. You have to list them least to greatest, so 3, 5, 10, 12, and 15. Okay, and then you cross off the smallest to biggest until you get to the one directly in the middle. Therefore, my median is 10. My mode, okay, is the most occurring or the most repeated, however it helps you to remember. It's the one that shows up the most amount of times. Now, as I look up here, I see 10 once, I see 12, I see 15, I see 3, I see 5. I don't see any of them repeated more than once, right? So in this case, this would be no mode. Now, if I were to add another point on here, let's say I scored 10 points in a sixth game, now my mode would be 10, okay, because I would have two of them that repeated the same. And then finally, the range, guys, that is just going to be your maximum minus your minimum, okay? Your maximum minus your minimum, so whatever the biggest number is up there, subtract the smallest number, so 15 minus 3 is going to give me 12. Okay, so there's your refresher on mean, median, mode, and range. Okay. Okay, area. You know, you could find the area perimeter. I mean, I'm going to leave this one up to you guys because you could find this on the internet. Use your resources. I've always said there's nothing the matter with using the internet. If you don't remember how to find the area of a rectangle, look it up. It's cool if you don't remember it. I get that. This has been a while since you've done this kind of stuff, so I get it. The biggest thing is you're gonna get a perimeter. You're gonna get an area. Okay. The biggest thing I'm gonna warn you guys of is labels. You must have the correct labels this week. If you do not have the correct labels, it's going to be incorrect. And we went over this. We did it through Kahoot. We did it on the last couple review sheets. Perimeter's got a certain amount, feet or feet something. Area has feet or feet something. If you don't have those labels, it will be wrong. Even if you have the right numbers, it will be wrong. One thing that does help a lot of students is to draw the picture out. So actually draw it. Say, okay, there's my rectangle that's 6 feet by 4 feet. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Number 5. Okay. We've had these pretty much every week on review sheets. Pretty much, you need to do work on this one. Okay, which means you either need to find a common denominator, CD, common denominator, or you need to turn them to decimals. And then you should all remember that all fractions are division problems. Okay, so we could do 2 divided by 5 and 3 divided by 7 to figure that out. But remember, they're negative. That's the key there. So really what I'm hoping you guys are going to do is for all of these, you don't have to do this, but a number line I think would really help you guys out on this one. And remember, the one that's furthest to the left is smaller, always. Okay? All right, number, I'll do one here. I'll make one up. 28.91376, something like that. 28.91376. If I were rounding this to the near 10,000th, what that means is I've got to find the 10,000th place first of all. If the decimal's here, the first one, that's my tenths. Then I would have my hundredths. Then I would have my thousandths. Just kind of squiggle on those. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. That means the next one, that would be the one I need. That's the 10 thou. I'll just keep it like that. 10 thousandths. Okay? So we got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Right there with the blue underline, that is my 10 thousandths. I'm going to draw my arrow to the one to the right. You should all know that everything to the left of that is going to stay the same. So 28.913, I can go ahead and bring that down. Now it's all about whether that 7 right there is going to stay as a 7 or go to 8. Because this 6 is 5 or more, that 7 is going to go up to an 8. And then, of course, you could always put a 0 after that. That's fine. This one is optional here. Okay? Hopefully that helped you out. Next one. Okay, this one I'm going to let you guys think a little bit. You've learned this. This is really an elementary question right here. And you can use the internet, once again, to help you out to figure out what do we use a line graph for. I'm fine with that. That's using your resources. Okay? So graphing, what kind of graph would I want if I was surveying my favorite pizza? That's a categories. So we got to think about what kind of graph would show categories. Just think about it. And then line graphs, like I said, you can look those up yourself if you have to. Okay, next one, this is all chapter 1, LT number, I want to say 9, it was 9, chapter 1, learning target number 9, so you can go back in your notes on those or whatever, but chapter 1, LT 9, that's where you're going to find this type of question. There is a word there, it's one of those, I always put it in parentheses, I always wrote it and said, what word do you see here? Or how do you know it's this type of question? But pretty much everybody's going to get that one right, I think. Finally, ordering question here, very similar to the one you saw up here, this one here, okay? Because we are comparing fractions there, so with negatives. So you're gonna, when you come down here, you're gonna have to do the same thing. So you're either gonna need to turn them all to fractions with common denominators, which I don't want you to do, or you're going to have to turn them all to decimals. Remember, like this one would be 5 divided by 4, which would be negative 1.25. Okay, I'll give you that one. Okay, and then what I would do also, again, is I would put a number line. I'd put them on a number line, and then I'd figure out which one was far. Just think of this as a number line, almost. You know what I mean? Like, think of it as the farthest to the left on the number line would be the smallest number up there. The farthest to the right would be the biggest number up there. Okay? This one here. This one is Chapter 1, LT number 10. Okay? Just remember, this right here has to be your GCF. It's the only hint I'm going to have there. So that's your work there. I've done a bunch of these. If you don't remember how to do these, you can look back in your notes, or on your last week review sheet number 5 quick video, I actually did an example of this, so you could look back to that if you need to, or we had them on last week's review sheet. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Okay, this question right here, I want everybody to understand this. This frequency table is showing the number of cousins for 29 students, and basically, imagine if I stood in front of the class and I took a poll and I said, how many of you have one cousin? And I had 7 people raise their hand. So I'm going to put 7 ones. 7 ones, because there's 7 tallies, right? And then I said, how many of you have 2 cousins? And then 5 people raised their hand. Okay? See where I'm getting at? 5 tallies right there. And then I said, how many have 3 cousins? And then I had 7 people raise their hand again. 6, I think it's 7. Okay. I'm going to continue this down here now, switch colors. How many of you have 4 cousins? Well, now I have 4 people raising their hand. Okay, then I said, how many of you have 5 cousins? And 4 people raised their hand. Okay. And then how many people have 6 cousins? 2 people raised their hand. This is what it looked like if I was just making a list. I had 7 people that said they have 1 cousin. I had 5 people that said they had 2 cousins. I have 7 people that said they had 3 cousins. I have 4 that had 4 cousins, and 4 that had 5 cousins, and 2 that had 6 cousins. Okay? Now, you have to think about this like this. This is how you got to think about it. You got to think about it in terms of that information up there. Now, I already went over what mode was on number earlier in the front side. Okay, so you have to figure out if this would have a mode, if it would have 1 mode, 2 modes, or if it would have 6 modes. Okay? All right, this question right here, really hard to read on your example, but how many runners ran the distance in less than 7 seconds? Okay, you can see that 7 seconds would be right there. So I'm going to let you go from there and figure that one out. Okay, but just understand this is a histogram. So this is representing the number of runners that ran in that particular interval of time. Okay? All right. Division question here. We're getting better at these. Okay, so let's say I was doing 375, and I was dividing it. Actually, you know what? We'll do 3,750 divided by 25. Okay, I'll just do one for you, so you can kind of see how it's done. I asked myself, how many times will 25 go into 3? You would all say 0, or some of you may have been taught to put an X. Either way is fine with me. How many times will 25 go into 37? Well, that's going to go in 1 time. I'm going to multiply 1 times 25 around. I'm now going to subtract and get 12. Remember, you always want to check this right here to make sure it's smaller than your divisor. Okay? So if it is, we're ready to bring down. So I'm going to bring down a 5 now. 25 into 125, pretty easy. 25 is a pretty easy number for that I chose here. Maybe you would have to use rounding rules to kind of help you get a good idea. Like maybe you said, well, I know 25 goes into 100 4 times, so obviously it must be 5 times because that's 25 above 100. Multiply around, we end up getting that. We subtract, we check to make sure it's smaller. Now we're ready to bring down our last 0. How many times will 25 go into 0? 0 times, right? It won't go in at all. So then we multiply around, we subtract, 0. And we don't need to bring a decimal up or anything like that. We could. I mean, we could do this all day long. Say, okay, how many times will 25 go to 0? 0. Multiply around, subtract. Bring another 0 down. Now I have 0. See what I mean? You don't have to do any of that, though, on this one. If it terminates and it gives you 0, you do not have to add the decimal. So this one would be 150. So I think we're getting better at division. This is going to be chapter 3. We're going to hit it again. We'll actually learn it. Okay, so don't worry about that. This next question here, this is one that we did basically the same question last week, only it was -3/4. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you that you do is I'm going to ask that you look back at last week's review sheet to get some help on that one. But just remember, you count the same way going to the right. For instance, if I were counting 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm counting by ones. If 0 is here and I'm counting this way, I'm going to go -1, -2, -3. So just keep that in mind. Okay, think about where -1/4 would go on that number line. Hopefully you all realize it would be to the left of 0 because it's negative. So now you have to figure out if it's this point, or this point. Okay? All right, and then finally, we have a reflection question. It says point J is on the coordinate plane at -4, 5, so it's right there. Okay, if we're reflecting it over the y-axis, what are the new coordinates? Well, first of all, you got to be able to identify which one the y is. It says it right there, so it's not like you had to really remember it. Okay, and then just keep in mind, it's going from quadrant 2 to quadrant 1. So remember, I told you guys that in quadrant 1, the coordinates will always be positive, comma, positive, because it's to the right and up. Okay, quadrant 2 is always going to be negative, positive, because left negative, up positive. Down here in quadrant number 3, it's always going to be negative, negative, always. And then in quadrant 4, it's always going to be positive, negative. So it's just one variety of or the other. Okay, so when you're thinking about where this is going to reflect, hopefully you're all realizing that it's either going to reflect down to here somewhere, or it's going to reflect over to here somewhere. Okay, so I'll let you guys go with that. But remember, the actual digits aren't going to change. Like, remember I taught you guys that's -4 is either going to stay as a -4 or go to +4. That 5 is either going to stay as 5 or go to -5. So that's like the little way to remember it. So you don't have to worry about counting so much. Okay? And finally, guys, last question all the way at the bottom down here. Multiplying decimals. Again, I'll do one real quick. Like that one. Let's do, get rid of this. Let's say I'm doing 29.4 times 0.29, something like that. Okay, now remember, I don't want you guys doing this. This is what some of your teachers have done in the past, and I do not want you to do this. Lining up decimals. The only time you will line up decimals and place values is when we're adding or we are subtracting. I do not want you to do that. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to take out those decimals, right? So I like to put an X over them, like that. And then I say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just do 294 times 29. And then that, you all know how to set it up there. Now, once you get it to this point, you can put it back in if you want to. I mean, I just want you guys to get in the habit of, you know how to multiply whole numbers, so let's just get rid of the decimal while you're doing it. Okay, so I'll take that back out. We'll put it back in a minute. Okay, we start here at this place value right here, obviously, the one farthest to the right. 9 times 4 is 36. You got to carry your 3. 9 times 9 is 81. Plus 3, you got to add on your carry. That's going to give you 84. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 8 would give you 26. Very important here that we go back now and we get rid of all those carries that we used. Also, I like to put an X through that too. And then that reminds me, hopefully, that you got to do that placeholder because you're not dealing with, you already did that. So now we're over one place value. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 9 is 18. You carry your 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay? And then finally, we're ready to add. We start on the right, obviously, 6. 4 plus 8 is 12. 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 1 is 15. And then 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. The answer to 294 times 29 is definitely 8,526. That is the absolute answer, which would mean it's a whole number with the decimal right there. But keep in mind, we are not doing 294 times 29. That was just a way for us to set it up. Now, we need to realize that it did have decimals. So we've got to go up now, and we've got to count up how many numbers we had to the right of the decimal place. So I count 1, 2, 3. So that means my decimal needs to move 1, 2, 3. So your answer would be 8.526. Okay? All right, guys. I hope this helped you guys out. See ya.